he's able to get on top of them. He's typically played in the top lane. Of course, I like to be unique, and today I'm going to talk to you about playing Garen in the mid lane. Garen in the mid lane is played differently than in the top lane, and his goal is to create as large of an impact on other lanes and on the enemy jungler as possible. So as usual, I'll have some of the timings in the description below, but I'm not going to speak too much about Garen's trading patterns this time because as he is a simple champion, he really doesn't have a trading pattern. Actually, I can tell you what it is now. It's either QE or it's EQ. That's it. So Garen is quite a simple champion to master, and you know what, I should say he's a very simple champion to learn. If you want to master him, you have to learn how to play more of a macro game. So learning a macro game is good. If you pick up Garen, you can start to learn those fundamentals better. We'll go into his abilities very quickly, and then we'll talk about how to play Garen in the mid lane, what items you should go, and how you play the lane out to impact other lanes. I will go into the itemization while doing that, and finally, at the end, the remainder of the video will just be, clacks of a keyboard, and hopefully some tingly, inducing ASMR for you guys of me playing a Garen middle game. And as per usual, I have done a great job at boring the rift to slumber. And again, it's not sure if it's awake or if it's asleep. So we'll stimulate it here a little bit by pressing buttons. Okay. So let's go into some of Garen's abilities quickly. Let's start with his passive. It's called Perseverance, and this passive allows Garen to heal when he's not in combat. So if he's not been struck by a damaging ability, for 80 seconds he regenerates a percentage of his maximum health every 5 seconds. Honestly, this is such an overpowered passive, because if you take damage, you can always just, clear the wave and back off, and after like 10 to 15 seconds you'll start to regenerate. After 8 seconds you'll start to regenerate, and you can recover a whole bunch of health by the time you're back into the lane. It's a great passive. Garen's Q is called Decisive Strike. Garen breaks free from all slowing effects, so this is cool. And he gains movement speed. If he gets hit with a slow and then he uses his ability, he'll immediately become very fast. His next basic attack deals extra damage and silences the target for 1.5 seconds. His W is a shield, and it blocks some damage, but when he activates it, it reduces all the damage he takes by 30% and gives him some tenacity. So 60% tenacity is quite a lot. He becomes very hard to stop. Also, the great thing about Garen's shield is that the passive on it gives him extra armor and magic resist, up to a total of 30. And his armor and magic resist are increased by 10% at maximum stacks. So, that's what, 120 minions, I guess. And then he'll have an increased armor and magic resistance buff. Not sure if I did the math right there, but who cares. Garen's E, Judgment, is his iconic ability. He spins around in a circle, dealing lots of damage. He does physical damage 7 times within 3 seconds. And it says that his attack speed that you get from items increase the number of strikes. So the more attack speed you have, the more number of strikes it does. When you're doing this, champions hit by 6 spins lose 25% of their armor in 6 seconds. So the iconic ability looks like this. Reducing their armor after 6 spin. And basically, Garen's 2 combos that I mentioned were QE, auto, or if you have Conquer, maybe the best way to get your stacks up is to just auto E, auto Q. Anytime you can throw an auto in is always really good. So since I'm playing Garen mid lane, I'm actually not going to be running the Conquer Ruin. I run the Predator Ruin. Predator enchants your boots with the active effect Predator. You channel for 1.5 seconds without taking or dealing damage, then you gain a 45% movement speed increase for 15 seconds. It's really long. Damaging attacks or abilities of this effect. Damaging attacks or abilities and this effect, dealing 109 plus some bonus magic damage. Bonus damage, and it's got a pretty long cooldown. So that just looks like this. You channel it and then you run fast. You can kind of see his movement speed, especially with Q. Alright, and then here's his, this is his movement speed without it. Okay, so how should Garen be played in the mid lane? Well, Garen's Judgment does a ton of damage, and it's really good for clearing waves. So in the top lane, you might be using your Judgment and trading on an enemy champion without hitting the minion wave, because you're trying to maybe freeze the wave in front of your turret, or you're trying to gain domination in the lane. And in the mid lane, the lane is much shorter, right? It's a lot shorter, so you don't have as much space if you want to freeze. But the good thing about a short lane is that you can get back to base quickly and come back to the lane to make an impact. Or you can make a roam to the enemy jungle, or to the bot lane, or to the top lane, and come back for the wave very quickly. So when I play Garen middle, I don't focus so much on freezing the wave or gaining domination in my lane. What I really want to do is I want to push the wave into the enemy turret as much as possible. By doing this as quickly and as often as possible, you will lock the enemy champion into their lane, and it will free you up to impact the map and other places. So if you're just, doing your thing in clearing, you clear the wave as fast as possible, and then you use your Predator, and you have Yomos, and you just quickly run bottom and do a ton of damage. It's not even all that different when I'm like level 6. The damage is similar. Obviously, Yomos helps a lot. And you can always run back with Yomos or use it to kill somebody else, gank your own lane. And you're constantly keeping it pushed in, constantly making the enemy champion deal with the minion wave. So that's the overall general strategy. It's not to dominate the mid lane, it's to keep the enemy locked in as often as possible. Make sure that they don't get any breathing room, and that gives you freedom to make an impact on the map in other places. Oh no, gotta stop missing cannon minions. So the items that you would want to build are I like to go Yomus first, but if you're feeling kind of like you're not doing, like you're too weak, you can always just go for Trinity first instead of Yomus. The speed difference is actually kind of the same for a roam, because Trinity Force gives you 5% movement speed, but Yomus gives you 40% movement speed when you're out of combat, plus you get the movement speed buff. Still, once Home Guard wears off, you can see what this looks like. So if I just have regular boots and a Predator, I'm still moving quite quickly. I don't think it's like a huge difference from Yomus, and this gives you a lot more damage. But I personally like just to make a maximum impact by going Yomus Ghostblade first and Trinity second. So I might have this, honestly I a lot of times have it by level 11 because I will begin snowballing really early. But, you know, maybe you just helped other laners get kills and you farmed the enemy jungle and you farmed your wave, so you don't have as many kills. Let's say you're level 13 and you have these two items, and you have a pair of boots. If they don't have hard CC and they have a lot of slows, I think the boots of Swiftness are the best here. Extra movement speed, and they reduce slowing effects by 25%. If they have a lot of CC or a lot of AP, you can get Mercury Treads. And if they have a very high AD auto-attacking team, you should get Ninja Tabbies. So, clear a wave, run and try to make an impact. And then come back middle and clear a wave again. You can also use these items, like here's what I'll do sometimes. I'll let the enemy push in. Sometimes I do actually freeze. Like this. And then I'll just leave the lane and I'll pop my predators. And let's say like they're here just kind of farming from a distance. I will gank them. I will gank my own lane. And just, you know, once I have some items that really you can just do a ton of damage. Alright, so I think that pretty much wraps up the items that you can build. Like, you build Trinity because it's a stable item for Garen. Yomus, if you really want to move along. If you're feeling kind of like you're spending too much on damage and you're dying a lot, maybe you could buy as first item Trinity, second item. A lot of people do this. They will go Black Cleaver, and even though Trinity and Black Cleaver both have the Rage passive, so that's not good, right? You don't want to share unique passives. The benefits are just so many that people do this all the time. You get 40% cooldown reduction, extra health, armor shred, and a damage. So this on Garen is also really good because you just get to use your abilities more. This is him without any Ghostblade. So I like to wait for my Predator cooldowns to come up, and I also like to wait for Ghostblade cooldown before I roam. Otherwise I just push and then get vision. As a third item, I will get Death's Dance, and this is if I'm getting chunked a lot. If I'm trying to split push, I'll go a Zeal item to make them even faster. doesn't have trouble clearing waves by this point, so I think just a little more survivability and the extra movement speed helps a bunch. You can see with these 3 items how just immensely fast he is. Rawr. Okay, so do your best to push your wave in at all moments. Try your best to impact the other lanes and help your jungle get or invade, take objectives, whatever. You're not really focusing on your own lane, you're focusing on other people's lanes. And you'll probably get kills while you're at it. So this is a very unique way to play Garen, and I think it's pretty overpowered. I've had a lot of success with it. I've got like a 75% win rate in the mid lane with Garen. It kind of suffers against, it sort of suffers against tanky teams because building like this makes him a little bit weak. In terms, he's papery. You can cut through him, and if Garen can't finish off kills when he goes to gank, or if he can't help other lanes snowball, then you sort of have this useless bruiser, and it doesn't feel very good. So try your best to snowball as early as possible. But if they have a ton of tanks, I wouldn't worry about it so much. Maybe just play some sort of tank buster or like a Malzahar or something. Okay. I think we can get into the game and you guys can see for yourself how Garen middle works. But I hope you enjoyed my 2 cents on